Every story from Shortwave NPR Science Podcast starts with a question. Like, why do we have nightmares? How does AI affect my energy bill? At NPR, we are here for your right to be curious about the world around you. Follow Shortwave wherever you get your podcasts, because the more you ask, the more interesting the world gets.
Think is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com, find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, price and coverage match limited by state law. I like my summer wardrobe to be my simplest wardrobe of the year. A few things I really love and wear again and again and again. And for that, I really love Quince because they make elevated essential items using really high quality premium materials like organic cotton and washable silk, my favorite, also European linen. And you don't get the traditional retail markup. They have 100% European linen pants, dresses, tops, the pieces that you will reach for all summer long. Their 14-karat gold jewelry adds a subtle finishing touch. And everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you are paying for quality rather than brand markup. I am really living in my linen pants this summer. My husband just got some Quince linen pants, a slightly different style, and he is really excited to wear those. Make your summer wardrobe feel easier. Go to quince.com/KERA for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada as well. That is QUINCE.com/KERA for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KERA. Most of us go to great lengths to avoid paying attention to what is actually happening around us. We stare at our phones as we walk down the street. We use them for directions, to order our food, to check in on our bank accounts, play our music, and stream an endless, instantly forgettable parade of short videos meant to take our minds off of just how distracted we are from reality. From KERA in Dallas, this is Think. I'm Krys Boyd. David Sedaris has maintained the lifelong habit of paying meticulous attention to the real world, to the things he sees and the people he meets. He doesn't record those memories as photos in his phone. He takes notes, and then he spends hours at a time every single day processing his thoughts by writing them. We, his readers, cannot get enough. His new book is called The Land and Its People. The essays are funny and melancholy and sometimes delightfully, relatably neurotic and petty in a way that a lot of us are, but most of us are not brave enough to admit. I am thrilled to have David here to talk about the book. David, welcome back to Think.
Thank you so much, Krys.
So let's talk about walking. Your all-time record for a single day is 91,000 steps, which is very impressive, about 43 miles. What is the relationship between how far you walk every day and how much credit you can get on your watch?
Oh, how much credit I can get on my watch?
Do you care?
Oh, I have to fill in all my circles. I have an Apple Watch, so I have to fill in all of my circles. But what I want is to walk a minimum of 10 miles a day, which when I'm on tour, that means, let's say if I'm leaving for the airport, a car is coming at 7 and I have 2 planes. And anyway, I have to think ahead, so I have to get up at 4:30. You know, it's just ridiculous. But I can't stop doing it. You know, if I have an injury, I limp it. The world will end if all my circles aren't filled in.
Is that about health and longevity? Is it about like mental health? What does it do for you?
It's just an obsession, you know. I mean, I've had them all my life, and you know, I was the same with Duolingo. I started doing Duolingo, and then I noticed that the competitive aspect, I stumbled upon it. So then I had to be in the top 3 in the Diamond League, right? An average person might end the week with like 400 extra points, you know, and I was regularly hitting 23,000. And so I I wasn't even learning at that point, right? I was just competing against people who might not even exist. And I got to say, it just felt like a real merry-go-round. And about 10 days ago, I was at a bookstore, and I said, does anybody know how to turn off the leaderboard on Duolingo? And a woman said, I can do that for you. Oh, I've been free since then. I do the lessons it wants me to do, right? Whatever tasks it gives me, I do. And I spend 15, 20 minutes a day, and I'm free. I go to the airport. What I most hated about myself was I have to get my steps in, so I was having to walk and do this at the same time. So I was the person looking at a device. I was the person running into chairs, running into other people. Oh, I hated myself. I just hated, because I condemn that person, right? I don't have a big relationship with my phone. I'm generally speaking, everywhere you go, everyone's on it except me, right? So I get to observe because I'm not looking at a phone, but all I observe are people on their phones.
Do you now feel 100% fluent in French?
No, I make lots of mistakes. I rarely think, oh, great, I get to speak French. I get kind of nervous about it. If you were French and you spoke no English, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But if there's an American over there that speaks French, I don't want to speak in front of them.
Yeah. How did you get comfortable knowing that you might make mistakes? Because I think for someone as hyper articulate as you are in English, I mean, there's that sense that in English you have complete control and command of the language, and in French you might have to talk your way around something.
I think part of it was getting older and realizing there's some breaks that come with that. But with every language, I become a character when I speak it. I was saying something to someone in German, and he was overhearing me, and he said, "Who are you?" And it's the same in Japanese and in Spanish. I become different people, and that helps it. That helps me in a way as well. It's not me. It's a character.
Humor is hard in a language that is not your own.
It is, and it meant so much to me to get laughs in French. That meant a lot to me. I remember my very first laugh, and I hadn't even started going to school there yet. We were in the country, and the neighbors were having a slideshow. That's how long ago it was. It was a slideshow, and the lights went out, and I said, "My wallet," and they laughed, and it felt so good.
So you have such an interesting form of fame because there are places in the world, particularly, big cities where people will see you and recognize you and be so excited to meet you. And I would imagine there are places you can go, including in those same cities, where no one has any idea who you are. Have you learned to predict which situations will produce someone who wants to know you?
Gosh. I mean, I'll be stopped 4 times a day normally, I mean, not in Shreveport, I mean, maybe I'll be in Shreveport and it'll be somebody who's
in the
coming
Whole Foods.
To see me. Yeah. And then it started in England because I have a radio show in England, and there, I'll be in the supermarket and someone will say, "Are you David Sedaris?" They recognize my voice because I don't have any, I'm never on TV or anything there. So it's just a voice thing. But it feels good to start over in another country, to build a little audience there. We were living in France, but then, we went over to England, and I just felt like people scooted over and they said, "Here, they made a little place for me. Here you can write for the newspapers. Here you can be on the radio," in a way that they didn't in France. So it was nice. They just all scooted down a bit, and then I have a place in another country, which feels really satisfying to me.
You write in the book that when you are interviewed by journalists overseas, they always want to talk about American politics.
Always. It's as if I wrote exclusively about politics, But it's interesting as time goes by because a lot of those questions that I'll get this summer in England, well, with the rise of the Reform Party in England, They, the it can't happen here aspect of it is gone, right? But sometimes it becomes tiresome because I'm not an expert. I read the newspaper and I keep up, but I'm not an original thinker politically. Every now and then I write political, like little satirical pieces, that the Observer publishes in England. But just when I get a fancy to do so.
You write about asking AI to write something in the style of David Sedaris. What did ChatGPT crank out when you requested that?
Well, it was a friend of mine who asked ChatGPT to write something in my voice, and then she sent it to me, and it was so lame, right? But the biggest laugh in the entire book was me rewriting what it wrote, and I think kind of underlining its shortcomings. But there's shortcomings today. Maybe they won't be shortcomings next week. But as of today, I don't think it knows how to surprise people. I find as a writer that you don't surprise the reader unless you're surprising yourself, right? And that's what I live for, is surprising myself and laughing at something that I wrote or thinking like, you can't say that, to myself. And ChatGPT doesn't seem to, it doesn't understand how to be dirty in a way that I like. And I don't mean like I'm to write erotica, that doesn't interest me, but to be a combination of kind of being dirty and being mean, but being naive at the same time and just shocking people, right? And so anyway, and it advances so rapidly, who knows, maybe by next week it'll be able to do those things. But me rewriting what ChatGPT thought I sounded like was, like I said, the biggest laugh in the book.
The video that's being produced by these platforms now is interesting, and it's becoming more and more convincing, and even experts can't necessarily tell if it's true. A friend of mine posted something recently, and it was kind of a spoof on that He Had It Coming song from Chicago with construction workers taking down the Trump name from the Kennedy Center. All of it was pretend, but it was these guys dancing. And it was, I'm sure lots of people found it amusing. I started wondering whether these technologies will just be so much easier than actually producing real art. Not that a parody of this kind necessarily rises to the level of art, but that would be a lot of trouble to hire 15 dancers and a choreographer and people to do the video. Do you worry that people just won't be as motivated to make things now?
I worry, I was in Los Angeles last week, and we went out to dinner. And a friend of ours who lives in Los Angeles said, I called us a Waymo, right? And
a driverless taxi.
Yeah, and I'd never been in a Waymo before. And for the first minute, it was interesting to see a steering wheel turn and nobody, sitting in that seat. And then it was normal. And then I was just sad because how horrible were your experiences that you prefer to have that human gone, right? I mean, sometimes you might, let's say, get in an Uber and someone's listening to music, but it's not the end of the world. You're not in it for 7 hours. And I don't know, I've never, to punish that person by eliminating them seems a bit harsh. And I'm very conscious of taking people's jobs away. Because it's going to come for your job too. So my friend takes delight. She loves these Waymos. And I think I vowed never to take one again, just to, maybe I'll be the last person who's not taking one. But like in England, right? It would be such a mistake not to take a taxi in London. British cab drivers are so good at talking to people. And they've got such personalities. And I've gotten so many good stories out of them. And in New York, people get into a cab in New York and the guy is the cab is filthy and, the driver is you fear for your life. But in that situation too, once you talk to that person, it's just fascinating, the things that you learn. So, and that makes me sad. It makes me sad that, like mobile orders at Starbucks, right? So you just do it on your phone and then you go in and you don't have to talk to anybody, right? And it's not like it's great talking to people in Starbucks, but I just don't think it's good for us. All of this, ordering by a screen and just cutting the person out of it. Because like I said, I get so many, I don't know. I like knowing that someone is a human, right? If I go into a place and they say, welcome in, how are your travels? Like that's not a person talking to me, right? But I can get that person. I can get to them. I can, not by answering those questions, but, and then I'm just determined, I'm just determined to have that person prove that they're a real person.
You mentioned earlier when you're writing, that AI is not so good at being mean in an amusing way. I think people who, and I've had the pleasure of meeting and talking with you a few times, people think you might be mean in real life who have never met you. Does that surprise you?
Well, it's funny to me that you can write that you thought something, right? And then people will act as if you did it. And there's a huge difference between thinking about something and actually doing something. So saying something would make you mean, but I don't think that thinking something makes you mean.
I think maybe it's just me. I have a lot of mean thoughts sort of operating in my brain that I think might surprise people based on the sort of the temperament that I have doing interviews. But I kind of think everybody does that. So it's funny that they'd be surprised, that you can write something mean and not be mean. Does this make sense to you?
But at the same time, I bet you have a lot of beautiful thoughts. I bet you leave your house and I bet you think like, oh, that child is just adorable, right? You don't say anything to the child, but you think it, or you think, gosh, what a lovely bird. So I would imagine that your pleasant thoughts overpower your negative thoughts. And I just always felt it was probably like that for most people. But I was sitting on a plane the other day. The guy is watching sports on his phone without his headphones on. Now, excuse me, but I'm going to have negative thoughts about that guy. I might even say, we have a problem, and the problem is that I can hear what you're watching. See, you can't hear what I'm watching, but I can hear what you're watching because you don't have your earphones in. Well, I don't have any. Well, then you don't get to listen to stuff. That's the rule. The rule isn't that you don't have any. It's that you're going to bother me.
Do you still have a lot of conversations with people on airplanes?
It depends. I was on a plane a while ago and I saw the person in front of me just immediately start with the person who sat down next to him. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad that that's not happening to me.
Right.
But then at the same time, I've had some interesting conversations on airplanes, but I usually would wait until the end of the flight, right, and then say something. A couple weeks ago, I was in Atlanta, and I had flown in from, it was one of those days when you're in the airport all day. I'd flown in, I think, from Chicago, and 12 hours at the airport in Chicago. And the next morning, I'm taking the elevator downstairs for breakfast, and this guy boards. And I said, you were on my plane yesterday. I recognize you by your shoes. That really scares people, that you're paying attention to them scares people.
Was he taken aback?
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they were shoes that didn't have a back to them. Mm-hmm. So you got to understand, if you're going to wear shoes like that, you're probably going to get some comments. His shoes told me he was gay. And then And him being gay, he was happy that his shoes were noticed on the plane.
They were making a statement.
Yeah.
Speaking of outfits, you bought a cassock when you went to the Vatican. You were part of. There were lots of headlines about comedians and humorists from all over the world being invited by the Pope. I did not realize until I read your book that you were among that number. So many people came back, maybe the Catholics in that group, and they were delighted and charmed by the Pope. You were not so charmed.
Well, I was invited to meet the Pope, right? But I'm not a Catholic, and I was very aware of all the people who would die for this chance, right? And it felt kind of sad. Like we were each given a rosary by the Pope, and I gave mine to my dry cleaner's mother, right? Because she would have loved to have met the Pope, and then no one would have been happier, so I gave that to her. So yeah, we were invited, and then there was a dinner beforehand when Chris Rock was there, and Whoopi Goldberg was there, and Julie Louis-Dreyfus, and Colbert and Conan, and some of the people I'd met before, and some I wasn't. That made me nervous. Meeting Chris Rock made me nervous, because it was like, oh my goodness, Chris Rock. But the Pope, it was like, yeah, okay. And then we met the Pope, and then afterwards, my friend Austin had told me about a place called Gamarelli in Rome that has been dressing the Pope for 300 years. So I went with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I bought a cassock, which is a floor-length robe that priests wear. And usually they take 9 months to make, but they had one that a priest had ordered and never picked up. Fit me perfectly. I had to have maybe an inch taken off the bottom, and I wear it all the time.
Where do you wear it?
Oh, well, a couple months ago, I was at Federal Express in my neighborhood in New York, and the door opened, and one of my doormen came in, and he saw me, and he said, "Father David." He was such a good sport, playing along with it. People treat you really, really well, when you're dressed like a priest.
Do you have to be careful what you say?
Yeah, I mean, you don't, but with most professional people, like if I were going to Federal Express, right, I wouldn't curse. But it's different wearing it here, too, than wearing it in England. There, the looks that you get are completely, because there aren't that many Catholics there. Whereas in the United States, you're bound to see people who went to a Catholic school or whatever. But I find, I have been not wearing the collar with it, right? Which changes it a bit. And I found, it's simply a skirt, that I wear under it. So I've been lately buttoning it just to my waist and then leaving it open from there, and then you can kind of see the black skirt. It still looks priestly, and it doesn't look feminine in any way. It looks like you're in a Catholic cult, is what it makes you look like.
Your father died a while back. He had always been such a foil in your writing. And it strikes me that, to the end in your descriptions of him, he never fully got you. He didn't maybe understand you. Maybe he couldn't show affection for you, to you in the ways that you needed. But you kept showing up. Like, you kept trying. You kept, buying him presents and inviting him places. Was there part of you that thought, I will crack this. At some point, I will get him to sort of see me the way he sees some of my siblings?
Gosh, it sounds really pathetic the way you just put it. But it sounds also very true, I mean, I thought to myself that I figured out as a child that was never going to get what I wanted, what I needed from him. Yet, you're right, I did invite him. I invited him to, I did the commencement address at Princeton. And my father, I thought, well, he'd really get off on, Ivy League stuff. He always got off on it. And so I thought, well, I'll invite my dad, And there was a luncheon beforehand with the president of the university and some other people. And at the luncheon, my father said, you made a mistake here. Who you really need to give the address is my daughter, Amy, not David. Amy would have the audience eating out of her hand. I can send you some videotapes of her on Letterman, and you're not going to believe it. That's who you should have here. And that's why he went with me. That was his whole purpose, is to do that at lunch, And, it's just Charlie Brown with the football. I mean, I thought, well, I can write about it.
But it still hurts.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, my father, he didn't have any siblings, so he was always trying to pit us against each other, but it didn't work. Do you know what I mean? Like, that didn't make me feel any kind of way about Amy, because she didn't ask for that to happen, and it didn't have anything to do with her. It was just about him trying to drive us apart. And he spent his whole life as a father trying to do that. And it never worked. I mean, we just all, just made ruthless fun of him. I mean, I think it's one thing if you had children who made fun of you and they weren't good at it, but we were good at it. And I think that's its own pleasure,
Was that your mother's influence?
She didn't care for him, She never cared for him. I never understood why they stayed married. Never understood it. Because my mother came into some money in 1970, so really she could have left after that. And I never... But, it's a different... it was a completely different time, too, And there was still a stigma to being divorced. And it's one thing to be divorced and single. It's another thing to be divorced with 6 children, But I like to imagine a life in which my parents were divorced. It's pleasant to think of.
There are people in my life that I've lost whose reactions to things I can still picture. It's not like I wonder what this person would say or what that person would say. I know exactly what they would say. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I know exactly. Do you feel that way equally about both of your parents?
I don't feel that way about my father. I mean, the thing about my father is, like, nobody ever sits around and says, I wish I could talk to Dad, or it feels really sad on Father's Day, or, oh gosh, today's Dad's birthday, I wish I could. Nobody ever. Like, he overstayed his welcome. Like, he died and we went to the funeral and all that stuff, but that was it. We don't really think about him, but think about our mother all the time, I mean, if my mother was still alive, I mean, she would be, 100 years old now. So, but if she were alive and she were, if my mother were alive and if I was 34 and my mother was 65, I would bring her on tour with me and I would have her introduce me and I would have her sit next to me at the book signing table and I would take her to the best hotels in the world and I would shower her with jewelry and art, and I would buy her, first class plane tickets wherever she wanted to go, and I would, I didn't get a chance to do any of that because, when she died, I'd never known any real success, and for all I know, that I don't know what she thought. I don't know if she thought that I was a loser or if she thought things would turn around for me. We never discussed it. But when I first moved to New York, I got the opportunity to write a play and put a play on, And gosh, I was on a $7 a day budget. And, you don't want to ask your parents for money. I mean, asking my dad for money wouldn't have done any good, but you don't want to ask your mom for money. But, she sent me $1,000 to spend on the play. And I didn't ask her. She just knew,
Mm-hmm.
She knew, and she didn't make you disgrace yourself by asking. And it wasn't like she just sent me $1,000 for clothes or anything. I mean, it was a start in New York. It was a play.
It was important
a play.
to you.
Right. And it was, it was my first little step, and she was just, people often say, what's the best advice you ever got? And my mother always told me, don't get on if you get on an airplane, have singles, right? And this was at a time when people, you bought drinks on a plane with cash, right? And I would always notice these guys on the plane, businessmen, and they would have a 20. And then the poor flight attendant would have to go up and down the aisles looking for change. And then the guy next to him would have a 20, right? And then the guy across the aisle would have a 20. And I would think, you were in the airport. I mean, it was pre-9/11. So let's say you were only in the airport for 20 minutes. That was enough time to break a 20. Or, I'm on this tour right now, so I always constantly have to have this tip money, right? And I know people who say, I don't have cash. Well, you got to have cash, because there are people whose job they rely on tips. So you need to go to the ATM, and you need to go to an ATM that will give you 5s and 10s. And if you only have 20s, you need to break those 20s. And so that's basically what she was saying. Be thoughtful, right? And think ahead, and think of people who are working, and who need you to be a decent person. And so that's what that advice translated to. And it really was the best advice I've ever had. I don't know that you can teach someone to be thoughtful, but no, I think, like, my sister Amy's really thoughtful in the same way. I'm not asking for a crown or anything. It's just thinking ahead, really.
I have to say, one of the things that I really appreciate about you and the way you write about yourself is that you're like a really wealthy guy now, and you do not pretend otherwise. And that's surprisingly refreshing.
I think part of it is that I was just so broke for so much of my life that it's just a big surprise to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, my friend Ronnie, one of my oldest friends, pointed it out to me a while ago. She said, if you ask me how much my coat cost, I'll tell you, I got this at the Goodwill for $1.75. And she said, if you ask you, then I say, I got this jacket at Comme des Garçons, and it cost $4,800, right? So, but I don't do it to rub anybody's nose in it. I'm like, can you believe it? Like, can you believe that I could pay that much for a jacket? Like, I haven't gotten over it, right? There's still somebody inside of me on a $7 a day budget, and I'm just so surprised and delighted. It's crazy how things can work out for people. So if I want to buy a small Picasso painting, it's not much larger than my book, I think I'm entitled to do so.
I love in the book where you say children are now like animals that have no remaining natural predators. I think that could not be more true, but maybe talk us through what you mean by that.
Oh, I was in the park in Hyde Park in London, and these kids were breaking branches off a tree. And a woman said, hey, you boys, stop that. And they said, you can't talk to us. And they were right? In the UK, she was bullying them, right? And I feel like, I wrote this essay about, I was not abused as a child. I was slapped across the face, and I was, hit with a fraternity paddle a few times, and I was, choked once, but I wouldn't call that abused. It was just what you got for holding everybody up, or for causing too much trouble, or I don't know, everybody did it. So you didn't even think about it. But now, if you're a child and if you're a parent and you slap your child, you don't have to worry they're going to go to school and say, my mother slapped me across the face. And the next thing you know, you're going to wind up in court. So yeah, children are like animals with no natural predators left, except each other.
I mean, I had no choking in my background, but I was educated by nuns, and they were like the old school kind of nuns. And I always think it's not the worst thing in the world. I didn't raise my children this way, but the idea of like knocking the sense that you are special off of yourself when you're a child is maybe not a bad thing to have happen.
Well, everyone I know, they have a child, and their child is so amazing and so special. And I always want to say, amazing how, because they speak 3 words of Spanish. That's nice and everything, but it's not amazing. But we were just not raised to believe that we were anything special. And I got to say, I think that was okay, right? Not to be raised with, not to be praised. Like our artwork was never on the refrigerator because it was ugly. You know what I mean? It was fun. And why would it be on the refrigerator?
It wasn't amazing.
No, it wasn't amazing. And I don't know, none of us were amazing. We were okay, right? But not amazing. And I don't know, I'm just curious to see where it leads. Like if you've got a child you tell that child every day how they're awesome and they're amazing and they're special and blah, blah, blah. Then what happens when they just grow up to be just normal and amazing things, great things don't happen? I mean, one of the reasons I'm such a grateful person is that my father's motto, what I heard every day of my life was, you know what you are? A big fat 0, right? And everything you touch turns to, I don't think it's a word I can't use on the radio. And so, I guess I was raised thinking, oh yeah, I'll show you. We'll see about that. And I don't know, that's one way, right?
But it could have gone the other way, right? Like, I'll show you is a great motivating way to grow up, and you've certainly seen great success. What if you'd believed it?
Right. I'm sure, I don't know, I just never, I didn't believe it. I just never thought, I always thought, well, I think you're wrong, right? And it wasn't like there was any evidence to the contrary, but I just thought, you're wrong about so many other things. Like if he was right about everything, then I might have been like, oh no, I'm a loser. But I don't know, I guess I thought, like I didn't like his friends, and I didn't think he was a very good conversationalist, and he wasn't funny. And so I just didn't trust his opinion that way. I'm not suggesting that would be a way to raise a child, just to put him down all the time. But also when you write, nothing that bad can happen to you, right? Because you can write about it. But you can only write about it once. Like, I got bitten by a dog and I wrote about it. Then a few months later, another dog bit me. And I was
Is that right? Really?
Yeah. And I was like, can't do anything. I've already written about being bitten. Yeah.
The dog thing, at least the initial dog bite that you write about in this book, is remarkable because a little bit like the children, you're telling people, and I guess the dog was the companion of an unhoused person with a drug problem in Portland. All anybody could think about was how that poor dog must be suffering to have bitten you.
I said to people, I got bitten by a dog. They said, what did you do? Like I provoked it. And when I said nothing, they said, what kind of a dog was it? And I said, it was the 3 people were smoking fentanyl by the side of the road. And they had these 2 dogs. Well, people with an opioid use disorder lead incredibly difficult lives and are in no position to take care of their animals. That's the sad part. And I pointed to my wound and I said, is that the sad part? But if like a tech bro, right, got out of a Tesla and his dog bit me, people would be outraged, right? But because the dog belonged to fentanyl addicts, right? It's not okay for anybody's dog to bite anybody. It's not like certain people's dogs are allowed to bite people, and certain other people's dogs aren't allowed. No dog should be allowed to bite anybody. And I thought we all understood that. So It was really shocking. And the second time I got bitten by a dog, the owner said, well, you must have woken him from a bad dream.
Is that a thing?
I guess. Yes.
I mean, a dog bite, I've not been bitten by a dog. I can't imagine anything that would hurt more. Were you frightened that you were going to need shots and all that?
I went to a pharmacy, and the pharmacist told me to go to the emergency room. And the emergency room in downtown Portland, and I had a show that night, and I thought, the people whose dog bit me are just going to spend the rest of the day getting high, right? So I'm going to spend my entire day in the emergency room. I thought I would rather die. I would rather die than do more than they were going to do. So I didn't go to the emergency room. And I'm afraid of water now, and I'm thirsty all the time.
But at least you didn't waste that time. You write about having people in your address book who have since died. And I think the older we get, this is just a thing, or you see people in your social media feeds or whatever. Why not remove those entries?
Well, Marjan Satrapi died like 10 days ago. You know, the Iranian who did the book Persepolis. Mm-hmm. And so her address is in my address book. And I hadn't seen her in a while, you know. But I don't know. It feels, you know, I send a lot of postcards, right? And I care about the postcards. So I don't send like crummy postcards. I think I send pretty good ones. And sometimes I'm just always traveling. So I'll be at breakfast sometimes and I'll think, oh, you know, I'm going to send some cards. And I go through my address book online and it's like dead. But I see the names and I think about them. And I don't want to forget. I mean, some people you're not going to forget, like David Rakoff. I'll never forget David Rakoff. But, you know, Marjan, I could have, you know, I mean, because we weren't that close, but still she was in my address book. I don't want to, I don't know, it just seems insulting to remove her from it. So I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. And, you know, the older you get, the more dead people you have in your address book. And I figured, I mean, I used to carry an actual address book. And if I had that,
like a physical book, yeah.
Yeah. If I had that, that's really a death scroll, like, you know, that one, because there was a lot of people that I'd, you know, relatives, and I mean, like my Aunt Joyce, you know, who died before I started keeping my address on my laptop. But yeah, it just feels like a betrayal, I think, to erase their names.
It's interesting because my grandmother lived to be 90, and she missed all the people that had died in her life. But I think toward the end, she was competitive. Like, she was like, okay, I've outlived another one. She took no pleasure in the demise of people she loved, but it sort of turned a corner at a certain point.
Well, I was very aware of that with, like, my father didn't really have any friends, but like Hugh's mother is 95 and she just has one sibling left, and that's got to really be hard. And a lot of her friends are dead. And I think, it must be so lonely, you know. I mean, it's different because she has children and grandchildren, so she's still got people in her life, but I don't have children and grandchildren, and I could be the last person in my address book. I mean, that would be a bit grim, you know. You would have no one to send a postcard to. I mean, nobody. When it comes down to the last 5, they're going to be like, oh, damn it, him again? Like, that's
I hear from him all the time.
The 5th card I've gotten this week, and his handwriting is so spidery, I can't even read them.
I mean, who do you imagine will take care of you when you need care?
If I'm very, very, very lucky, it will be someone from the Philippines, But I think it's easier to imagine our death than it is our decrepitude.
Oh, totally.
The thought of being my father was in assisted living at the end of his life, in a room, to be reduced to a room and then to, not be able to, let's say, get yourself on the toilet, but not even to have kids contact you, to be alone, to have nobody. That's, oh my goodness, I think all of us think like, well, just shoot me first, right? But Hugh's mother, the kindest thing you could do to Hugh's mother right now is kill her. She would be so grateful, right? And it doesn't have to hurt. You could come up from behind and take her by surprise, and it would be such a kindness, and it would be the kindest, it would be the nicest thing anyone ever did for her. But of course you can't do it because it'd be called murder. But I think we all hoped someone would do that for us, right? I mean, it's a lot to ask of somebody, to ask them to kill you. That's because they're not going to get away with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be the first suspect. Even if you made it look like breaking and entering and stuff, they're still going to catch you. But I've said to Hugh on several occasions, like when it comes toward that time, let's throw ourselves off the terrace in our New York apartment, and it's 20 stories. And he said, I don't want to make a mess and have the doorman see us that way. And I said, we put ourselves in body bags first. And then he was afraid that, he would go and then I would chicken out. I said, no. Okay, we'll sew 2 body bags together. And he said, there won't be enough room. And I'm like, are you worried about comfort the last 10 seconds of your life? Like, believe me, there could be enough room and we can make this work.
It is not the most romantic way to go with the person you've built a life with all these years. Or maybe it is in your mind. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I had this idea a couple of years ago for Canyon Day, right? So you go to the Grand Canyon once a year, and they put like logs and stuff around the base, on the rim of the canyon, right? And it's complete dark, and then they just let people wander. So if you trip over a log and fall into the Grand Canyon, then that's great. And then I told that to somebody, like Hugh's mother could go Canyon Day, right? What if they don't die? And I said, you know what? I'm so glad I'm not you. Like, they're going to die. If you fall into the Grand Canyon, you're going to die. Like, what kind of mind even wastes time saying, imagine
with this theoretical exercise, right?
Yeah.
This is a weird place to run out of time for this conversation, but it really has been a delight. David Sedaris' new collection of essays is called The Land and Its People. David, thank you for stopping by.
Oh, Krys, thanks so much for having me.
You can think is distributed by PRX, the Public Radio Exchange. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you get podcasts, and at think.kera.org. Again, I'm Krys Boyd. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.